So I welcome you all tonight. And again, it's cold. I appreciate you being flexible, and most of you are going to attend virtually anyway. This was the biggest thing probably for Lisa and I. So I appreciate your playing along with us, if that's the right word. But so welcome you. Again, there's the sign in for the attendance. I was looking up some math pictures, and I typed in Google gifted math, and this is the picture that came up. I thought that was a pretty cool picture. I don't know if that's how a gifted mathematician's brain works. I know it doesn't, my brain does not work like that, but I think that just proves I am not a gifted mathematician. But I thought that was a pretty cool picture. Just a couple things. We don't have a lot to do tonight. If we were in the room, this is companion mode, and none of you are in the room, so we really don't have to worry about it. What's nice about companion mode, if you're doing Google Meets, is that you don't have to have people mute. It just does that automatically. You're a full part of the conversation and the meeting, but it's just a nice thing. I don't know if you knew that existed, but we don't need that since you're all virtual except for me. 3 parts to our meeting tonight: the announcements, and then Lisa, and then some resources. I found some what I think are really exciting resources. So we're going to take a minute, and I do want you to fully investigate them. So please, again, make sure you have access to that slide link, because you're going to want to click on links. A couple announcements. High Impact Conference is going to be back this year fully in person. It's going to be on June 13th and 14th. It will be in Plain. We don't know what building yet, but it will be in Plain. We're looking for session proposals, and just like what Lisa is doing tonight is a perfect example of a session that people would want to come to. So don't think that, oh, that's not important enough or whatever. People love what we have at this meeting. And so at this conference, I'm sorry. And, you know, half hour, 45 minutes, hour, it can be whatever you want. So the proposal link is there. I don't know if you can click on that or not, but it's pretty easy. HICE, which is High Impact Conference for Educators, call 23. Just fill that out. And again, it can be math, it can be reading, it could be anything gifted. Gifted ones we know are in high demand because everybody wants hours. And so any of your stuff would be gifted. You just have to have my sort of stamp of approval. But I would give that to you all in a minute. But so please think about it and encourage, maybe you can even present with a co-presenter. I think that's awesome. Again, don't think anything you would do is too inconsequential. Everything is good. Also, Deidre Stafford is coming. We had her, let's see, 2019, right before COVID. She is coming on February 21st. We have not even chosen the topics yet. She is wonderful in that she will do what we ask her to do. I do know I'm going to try to get her to talk somewhat on social emotional needs for gifted students of all age levels, but that isn't going to be the whole day. I think she'll actually embed that into some of her discussion. So if you have a topic you would like, please get that to me, email me, and I'll put it on the list and we'll have that discussion with her. The ESC Gifted site is there. That's the one that was developed last year. It's a website. It takes the place of the live binder. I'm not going to click on it right now, but it does have, you'll see at the top, there's a bar, and there is a drop-down menu for teachers and a drop-down menu for coordinators. And the teachers one is divided into math and reading. All of these that we've recorded, the links will be there. The Google Slides are always there. So it's probably a site you might want to bookmark if there's something you want to go back to later on. Okay. And please, we're so informal tonight. Just unmute if you have a question. As again, I'm trying to watch this screen, that screen, chat's over here. So if you have a question, unmute, because otherwise I might miss it. Okay. All right. There we go. I see some of you are snacking, and maybe it's even on popcorn, but I found this quote and I thought it was pretty cool. Popcorn is prepared in the same pot, in the same heat, and in the same oil, yet the kernels do not all pop at the same time. Don't compare yourself to others. Your turn to pop is coming. Isn't that good? I thought, oh, the kids would like that, and kids could understand that. It doesn't mean, you might not feel good today, but tomorrow, maybe you're going to pop tomorrow. So I thought that was a great quote that maybe you can use hopefully in the next week or so. And now that was my quick announcement part. So Lisa, are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. We're going to turn this over to Lisa, and I want to introduce Lisa. I met her, when we were still at the old ESC, I think. You presented once before, didn't you?
I have, yeah.
Yes. And wonderful ideas. Lisa works in Minerva, and she can tell you more about herself, but just want to welcome her. And so you all know, she volunteered to do this. I did not coerce her in any way, shape, or form. So Lisa volunteered. So I know it's going to be wonderful. I've seen what she has. So, all right. I'm going to go ahead. Lisa, do you just let me know when you want me to advance?
Okay, thanks. Hello. So I am the gifted math teacher for grades 3 through 5 at Minerva Elementary. I've been here 7 years now, and I teach exclusively gifted math. It's kind of my dream job. So I have found my place. And one of the things that has kind of happened in the last 7 years is how I teach, and just like any of us in our profession, it's just evolved. And what that looks like in my classroom, and with the accessibility for technology, and then of course the needs that arose during our remote and hybrid experiences with COVID, I just have really come to love how Khan Academy works for me in my classroom. In one capacity or another in the last 12 years, I've used Khan Academy. The first couple of times that I used it, I was like teaching like a supplementary Algebra 2 course. It was a really weird experience, but like it'd been a really long time since I'd done Algebra 2. So I was using Khan for myself to learn how to teach the skills and help the students that I was working with. So for a long time now, I've been working with or using Khan in one capacity or another. And this is my second year as a Khan Academy ambassador. There are like 1,000 people across the country. They contacted me and said, we've seen your usage, and I'm always emailing them questions and, hey, can you fix this? Or, hey, can you do that differently? They must have gotten annoyed, but enough that they said, hey, can you help us? So I get to do this now. It's again another volunteer position, but it's been something that I've been really excited to share with my colleagues here in our building. And then I'm really excited to share with you tonight. So I want to talk about how I use Khan Academy and mappers in my classroom. So next slide, please. I'm sure everyone can relate to this, whether it's math or not. There is only one of me and 30, maybe more different needs in my classroom. I don't have enough time to do all of this, or we're not going to get to X, Y, and Z before testing. I have felt that way in or out of a gifted classroom multiple times. So I thought that was something that you could all probably relate to, and I would like to say that Khan has helped alleviate some of that for me. Next slide, please. Why I love Khan. The two big reasons, and you'll hear a lot of other things this evening about why I love Khan, is it really truly allows me to differentiate for my students and meet their individual needs, where they are and what they need as far as reteaching, pre-teaching, enrichment, all of these really awesome things that we try to do in our classrooms every day. And I also love the flexibility. I use Khan in my classroom throughout the course of the week. It's not necessarily like Monday we do Khan, Wednesday we do Khan. I'll talk about that a little bit more later, but it allows me to have a blended learning environment in my classroom. It was ideal for a flipped classroom option while we were doing remote or hybrid learning. It is ideal for self-pacing. Students are working at their own pace. And then, of course, I'm really big in my classroom on self-regulation. I want my students to really take ownership of that learning and start problem solving. If I don't know what to do, what should I do? And asking themselves those questions. I also think it's a great tool for building stamina. A lot of our state testing, our MAP testing, all the different types of assessments out there are all online. And for kids to be able to do math online, it is difficult. So I think it's a great way for them to practice how to do math on the computer with that paper, pencil, whiteboard beside them for that scrap work, but also building the stamina for how to read the problems on and to endure, like do this for a period of time. I will say the thing that the students do not love about Khan, and you hear it early on quite a bit, Sal Khan is not an exciting guy. He does an incredible job. His lessons are very thorough, very organized, structured, easy to follow, and he does a nice job of trying to keep things, I feel like, 15 minutes or less on like some, those are the long videos, several much shorter than that. But he's not exciting. He's not entertaining. He's not amusing. He's very dry, flat line, not emotional. And that can be really hard for students. And so just be aware that your students, if you use Khan, you may have heard this complaint. And if you've not used Khan, this is a complaint you're probably going to hear from your students. He's not exciting, but he's good. He's very good. Next slide, please. The Khan Academy offers the opportunity for students to master skills and concepts. So mastery learning is built on personalized learning for students with emphasis on each student receiving the right content in the right moment. And that's that piece of the flexibility that I really appreciate. I can have one student working on some trig skills and another student working on some grade level skills. And then I'm really meeting what they need, where they're ready to go, and keep pushing them all at the same time, but they're on completely different tasks. Next slide. So I have two goals today. First, I want to talk about how Mappers and a Khan Academy are different. They are two totally different things. And I think sometimes people don't even realize that and realize what one has to offer versus the other. So I want to talk about that first. And then the second thing I want to talk about is how I use Khan Academy in my classroom, and then how I use Khan Mappers in my classroom. Next slide. So Academy versus Mappers. So they are not the same thing. They are actually two completely different websites. And I have links to each of those throughout the presentation. Khan Academy is ideal for grade level skills and content. This is where I go to assign lessons to pre-teach or reteach what I am teaching in class, because sometimes I can say and model something and it doesn't make sense to my students, but we all know if we hear it or see it in a different way, it might help make that concept more concrete for them. So I always choose my Khan Academy. It's going to be my on grade level content. I assign it. I can go in and I can select, and you can select by standard. Also has if you use Engage New York or Eureka Math, they actually have a series of curriculum aligned with that directly. So that's really handy. That's what I actually use. So I can make sure that, like, if I'm on module 1 lesson 2, I can find the module 1 lesson 2 lessons in Khan Academy to pair with the lesson I am teaching in my classroom. And this is also, I use it to directly support my instruction, like I said, for that pre-teaching, reteaching, and then that practice. The Mappers, this is based on their map data. I'll talk about that a little bit more soon. But this is going to, that RIT score is right where they are, like that, where they are ready to learn. So it's going to take that score, you're going to plug it into the 4 categories, and you use the lower score, and I'll explain why in a minute, but you use the lower score, and then that's where they're in that, like, zone of proximal development, I think is the right key phrase there, but where they are ready to learn. So it's going to either find their holes and their gaps and start pushing them from there, or it's going to take them to that level where, okay, this is a comfortable place, but we're going to start pushing you a little bit more. My favorite thing about the Mappers for my gifted students is that their ceilings are all different in the classroom, but Mappers allows me to let them each push their ceilings. So where Khan Academy is making sure I'm meeting my grade level content standards, Mappers is giving me the opportunity to differentiate and push the ceiling for each of my students. So again, that flexibility is there, that differentiation is there. On the slide, I think it's kind of hard to see because the screen's a little bit smaller. The thing that's really important is all of student progress for Khan and Mappers is recorded in the same place. So while Mappers is one website and Khan Academy is a separate website, and students, it looks a little bit different when students are in there. All the information for student progress is recorded the same way, and you have access to that on your teacher dashboard, but you have to look at each, it sounds complicated, but it can be done really quickly. You look at each student and it'll designate whether something is MAP recommended practice or if it was grade level practice. And that's what on the slide, it's kind of boxed so you could see how that's different, designated differently. And then also, like, if they're working on the MAP recommended practice, which is the Mappers, if they're working on something and they're doing an exercise and then they go to a video or a hint for that, if it's above grade level, it'll tell you on their individual progress, like where it took them. So a student was working on Mappers in this particular example, they got stuck on something, they went for another video or another lesson to help them with the practice they were on, and it took them to an Algebra 1 lesson. So that's one of the things that's really cool too. I can see, like, not just were they like working at this place in Mappers, but then they had to take the next step. Again, that self-regulation. I'm stuck. I need to go here. And it's going to show me how far it took them. Like I said, I've had kids working on trig before. I've had a couple of girls in the past that have maxed themselves out on geometry. And I'm like, okay, we're going to stop here. That they don't even go any further because it's becoming vocabulary and concepts that they don't have enough foundation for, that we've had to stop. And then I just change their coursework and they do something in place of Mappers. But I think it's really neat to be able to go in and see, like, what they're actually working on. Next slide, please. So in Khan Academy, on your teacher dashboard, it'll open it up and it'll give you the grade level. It'll show you the activity overview. This is what I usually use, but then this is also going to give you, like on the left side, it's where you're going to go for scheduling your assignments. They've made a lot of changes in the last year to make modifying due dates and scheduling. You can schedule things out now and see when they're going to be due. It puts things in order of first due date for the student. And this is where you go to select your courses. You can set your goals. You can schedule and monitor student progress. All of this in your teacher dashboard. And then if you're selecting the courses and you're setting the goals and you're scheduling the assignments, that's in Khan Academy. Next slide. And Mappers, again, this is a totally separate website. You do have to do a little bit of work so that your students are getting the practice they need and the instruction they need here. So you would have to print your student map data, and then you're going to go in and you're going to enter the data for each student. It's 4 numbers for each student. It actually doesn't take that long once you kind of get yourself a system set up for finding the data and then entering it. And I can talk more about that in a minute, but it'll be the screen where you'll do that. It kind of looks like what's pictured here. It only has the 4 categories. It's geometry, measurement and data, numbers and operations and algebra, which are the 4 pieces. If you use MAP, you know those are the 4 pieces that it's going to give you. I've actually discovered in the last year, there's another category. Actually, I think there are multiple, but the one that we keep seeing pop up is like real numbers. And we're like, why are real numbers coming up for like our 2nd and 3rd grade students? And there's a place to go in and change it. And then you're actually putting in that data, because real numbers is not a piece of data you're getting from your MAP results. And again, even though they're working from here and you're entering the data from here on the Mappers site, you're going to review the progress in the teacher dashboard in Khan Academy. So you would have to go back to that site. That's the only, downside, I guess, is that Mappers doesn't have its own place for its own data, which is a complaint that they've heard from me multiple times, is that I want to be able to see my Mappers data separate from my Khan Academy assignments and progress data. Next slide, please. Before I move on to how I use Khan Academy and Mappers, do we have any questions about the differences between Academy and Mappers?
Lisa, I have a question.
Yes,
I have a couple districts that do not use MAP.
I know.
Okay.
I thought of that.
That's okay. Can they still find Khan Academy useful?
Yes,
And
Academy
you
would
could still
definitely be.
sign up for that and use that and maybe
Yeah.
use it as an extension?
Yes, absolutely. Mappers is just very specific to the NWEA
Right.
reporting data, but Academy is wide open. And it's not like when I first started using Khan Academy, it was just upper level math classes, and then they started bringing down the levels, and then they started adding science, and then they've added more and more content. Like there's language arts, there's history now, there's even computer programming, life skills, and I'll talk about some of those things later. But they've really expanded. They have so many more things. And just this year, they've got a panel together to work on improving the language arts and reading stuff because Mrs. Jean Jobs is my language arts counterpart, and she uses it for like some skill practice, but she's not pleased with like the reading selections and their availability and like what it asks them to do. So I'm waiting to see what Khan Academy does to improve their language arts before I'm like, hey, test this out and get back to me. But
Okay.
they've come such a long way. But yes, I would say Academy is extremely valuable, whether you have the mappers component or not. And it's all free. It is 100% free, whether you're using mappers or Khan Academy.
Okay.
Yep.
Anybody else have questions or comments before we move on?
Quick question. When you talked about a student maxing out, was that something the website decided or you decided when they should be done?
I decided that the child was done because, like I said, the vocabulary and the concepts she didn't have enough foundation for that as a fifth grader. It was going into theorems and proofs and things like that. And I'm like, oh, you still have a lot to learn. But she had done everything that she could up to that point. And I said, okay, you're just not going to work in the geometry category anymore. And so I would bump her back to so we were fifth graders. I put her on like a sixth grade geometry course and let her start working on geometry that way.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So how I use Khan Academy and Mappers in my classroom is where we're going next. So in your classroom, you can use Khan or Mappers to pre-assess, post-assess for mastery, create flexible grouping, drive instruction. It's a great way to meet individual needs, whether it's assigning below, on, or above grade level. And as I've mentioned before, pre-teaching or reteaching, and then of course, extending the learning, which is what ideally I perceive mappers to do for my gifted kids. And then all of this can happen, whether it be an enrichment opportunity. Like I said, they have the additional content areas now, and they have a whole growth mindset program, which is really cool. And they have like the life skills, which I used some of the financial literacy stuff last year with my fifth graders, which I had a really positive response from parents. And then they have computer programming, which I just had a fifth grader today for our fifth grade enrichment. I try to do some different computer skills. So we use applied digital skills through Google. And they're doing a project where they're maintaining and developing new content for our historical society's website. But a child came up to me today. He's like, Mrs. Anthony, since we're doing all this computer stuff, can we do some of the Khan computer programs? First time ever a child has asked me to do a new thing in Khan. So I was like, yes, we can put that on our calendar. So he's excited about that. But you can use Khan or Mappers, like I said, as an enrichment tool. You can use it in centers. What a great resource for when you have a sub, especially if it's a last minute, like, okay, they need to do this set of lessons and this many exercises today for class. So especially when you get into your upper level math, sometimes your subs are like, I don't know math, or, I don't do math, you're on your own kind of thing. So this way the students are still getting instruction and practice from quality resources. And then of course it can be used as a homework assignment. And as I mentioned before, it was a great resource and tool for me when doing remote learning and both in person and remote at the same time, that hybrid kind of thing. Next slide, please. On that last slide, I just saw that you can use your school's learning management system. We're all Google here at Minerva. But once you create your Google Classroom, do not go and create a second classroom, or even like we use Clever here also at our elementary. If those classrooms are already created for you, just upload them. You can do it both in Khan Academy and in Mappers. Do not try to sit and re-enter every student every time. So that's one of the things that has changed over the years, because I would have to go in and put all 3 grade levels in their own classrooms. And now I just click upload and I click all 3 classrooms and it's done at one time. So that's really nice. So making Khan Academy work for you. Again, just kind of some repetition, but the ways that you can have students working where they're ready to learn, you don't have to do all the videos. So now, okay, so originally Khan was just videos. Then they added practice. Now they've got the videos, they've got practice, they've got articles, they've got quizzes, they've got unit tests. There's a whole span of what you can choose. So I use the exercises and quizzes a lot as pre-assessment tools, because I can look at those and create my flexible grouping. So in my classroom, one of the things I do is we'll have our whole group lesson, but then I'll pull out small groups throughout the day, throughout the week. And I base those small groups on my results from their assignments completed in Khan. Lower grade levels, daily or weekly centers, morning work. It's a great way. I was in a 2nd grade classroom for just a few minutes. I think it was Tuesday. And the 2nd grade teacher, her students come in, they have like 3 things they have to do. They have to sharpen pencils, they have to get logged in and get started working on their Mappers goals. Boom, first thing in the morning, they're coming in quietly, getting seated and getting settled and ready like for a frame of learning and getting some practice in. I, in my classroom, actually set a certain amount of minutes every week that my students have to work towards. That's part of the self-pace and the self-regulation piece that I have my students working towards. So for example, 3rd grade, we work about 20 minutes a week. But in 3rd grade, it is structured. Like everybody is working 10 minutes today quietly at the same time. 4th and 5th grade, it looks different. So I think 4th grade's at 30 minutes a week of Khan Academy and 30 minutes of Mappers a week. Their schedule's funny, so that's part of why theirs is that way. And they do it actually before they come to class. Our 4th grade math block is shorter than our 3rd and 5th. So they're doing it as work before they come to class. And then they're credited for it when they're in class. And then my 5th graders are 30 minutes of Academy and 15 minutes of Mappers. And I'll tell you why. They asked for it. I actually had it 30 and 30, but there's this thing called LearnStorm going on right now with Khan Academy, and they wanted to increase their work power, I guess. So they asked if we could adjust it and move another 15 minutes over. That doesn't come out to an hour. I'm sorry. But they asked to move their extra time back over to Academy instead of Mappers. So they all have to have that amount of time completed by the end of the week. Everything is assigned on Monday. They have until the end of the week to complete that number of minutes. Now, the reason why I leave it open at minutes is because then they're self-paced. They're able to work on as many tasks, exercises, videos, articles, whatever they can complete in 30 minutes. Some kids work faster than others. Some work slower than others. Some are on more difficult concepts than others. Some are like, oh, I already got 100% on this exercise. I'm not going to watch the videos, which is a concession I allow. If you can do the exercises and get 100%, you don't have to watch the videos. But if you get less than 80%, you need to go back, watch the videos, and try again. So that way, again, that self-pace, that self-regulation piece is what I'm looking at in my classroom. You don't have to do that. You can say, okay, you're going to do this, if you've got 3 videos scheduled and 2 exercises, okay, you have to do your 3 videos and 2 exercises this week. You can set it up that way, whatever works best for you. That's the other part of the flexibility that I like. You can pick and choose how you want to make it work for you. Again, I mentioned great for sub plans. And then of course, if you're, we talked about like, don't always have time for everything. And you just need, like when students are absent, I am like, okay, in place of instruction today, give me 15 minutes on Khan Academy, Because again, I know what I've assigned in Khan Academy is directly related to the instruction I'm giving in class. So even if they weren't in class, they can still watch or 15 minutes of videos or do 15 minutes of exercises related to what we're doing in class. But the flipped classroom or as a homework assignment, I don't do that except for that 4th grade class. And that's just because I don't have a 4th grade enrichment time. So just because of schedule conflict. And when they have that time in their classrooms, then they're working on their tech time for math class. So that's when they're getting it in, so that since our math block is shorter, they have my full attention. They get their instruction, they get their work time with me rather than me competing with the computer for their time. Next slide, please. So I mentioned LearnStorm. Is anybody familiar with LearnStorm? Okay, so it's a motivation program. I only last year for the first time did this with Khan Academy. And so once you got your classes created at the beginning of the school year, you can select to participate. And what it does is it takes X amount of assignments per student completed. And for each student in the class, I think at one point it was 3 assignments. I think they upped it to 10 or vice versa. But if each student, say I had 10 students, if we completed 30 assignments, it took us up a level on the LearnStorm. And as you level up, there were prizes and rewards. So last year, the prizes and rewards were at levels 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, and so on. They were every 3, but they were just little things Khan would send us, Khan Academy would send us a mindful break. So then we would use that as our reward for class. Hey, you guys have worked on, you leveled up. Here's your mindful break that you've earned. One of my classes had, I think if you got to a certain level last year, I can't remember the number, you got to participate in a nationwide Kahoot. And it was growth mindset stuff. And it was what happens when you answer a question like this? What kind of graphics pop up? Sometimes it's Sal Khan's face. So they were super excited about that. So we did that last year, but this year LearnStorm changed a little bit in some really good ways. One of the ways, like I said, is how many assignments it is, I think, to level up. That changed. One other big change is LearnStorm is now year round. So you can reset for the 9 weeks or for the month, we're going to try to get to such and such level. And my students, like I said, my 5th graders asked for time to be added on to their Khan Academy, which is them doing more practice of what we're learning in class so that they could, I've got all 3 grades participating. They wanted to beat the other grades. My 5th graders want to beat 4th and 3rd grade. Right now, 5th grade is at level 59. 4th grade's at level 62 and 3rd grade's at level 56. But they're motivated to do their Khan Academy. They're excited. So the big thing for my students is to beat the other grade level. Another change that Khan made this year is they changed their prizes. So last year, they would send us something in an email, and I think we got a package of stickers and pencils as another reward at another time, and we got to participate in the Kahoot. So this year it's different. Has anybody ever heard of or used freerice.com? Okay, so it's not fancy or exciting. I've used it before for math practice, but after our students answer so many questions for their math facts correctly, they earn grains of rice in a bowl. And the grains of rice are real life grains of rice being donated internationally for families in need. So it's that concept this year with LearnStorm. When you hit level 5, pencils are being donated by UNICEF to a school in need. When you hit level 10, backpacks are being donated. When you hit level 20, then soccer balls are being donated. And it's something different at every level up until level 50. Level 50, your teacher wins a t-shirt. Everything over 50 for every 10 after that. So at 60, 70, 80, it's another 1,000 pencils being donated going forward. So the students were extremely excited about that because it was a chance for them to contribute to others in need. I don't think they know what UNICEF is. We didn't spend time talking about that, but they were just excited that their learning and their progress is helping somebody else with their learning. But again, it's been really exciting to see the growth mindset because like, okay, I didn't do it. I'm going to try again because we need to work on meeting that goal, that teamwork. It's fun and competitive in a healthy way. And the only thing that is the big, like, you should know kind of thing on this is that it only works for anything you assign as a teacher in Khan Academy. It does not include any mappers work. So it is Khan Academy only. But they have, so it starts, I think like in early August, because, you know, other people go back to school that early. And it goes, they have a national competition through, I think it's next week or the 30th. It's somewhere here at the end of November. And I'm not going to lie, I haven't paid enough attention. I don't actually know what happens at the end of that. I know my students are going to continue to work till the end of the second 9 weeks, and we're going to reset our rings at the semester. But right now they're just cruising right along and enjoying it. So that's LearnStorm. Am I doing okay on time? I'm not even paying attention.
You're fine. You
Okay.
can talk for 4 hours if you want.
Sadly, I probably could, but nobody would like me.
Okay.
Any questions about LearnStorm?
So you just have to be a part of the Khan Academy and your class has to be quote unquote registered,
Uh-huh.
and then you can do the LearnStorm.
Correct.
Okay.
And it has its own like graphic and the rings fill in. And as you complete a level, like different little confetti things rain down. And that's another place where you see Sal Khan's face show up. And my kids get really excited about that. But like, then they stand here and they chant like for the next 50%, and they're going 50, 50, 50. And it passes 50 and they're going 90, 90. I'm like, it's going to eventually get there, but it's cute because they're chanting and excited to see their growth and their progress. So like I said, it's a positive motivator.
Sounds
Next
good.
slide, please. Okay, so something else that is available in Khan Academy are the Get Ready courses. So this might be, this isn't going to be specific to any curriculum. Like I said, it's just like a wide open grade level content standards kind of thing. You can go in and pick and choose. You can pick your grade level. But not only do they have the grade level, which are going to meet the Common Core math standards, they have the Get Ready courses. So the Get Ready courses are really nice because they introduce and teach the skill for grade level. So like I did 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, did the Get Ready courses the first probably 5 or 6 weeks of the school year. Those were where I brought my Khan Academy assignments from. And then once we got rolling in our curriculum and well into the school year, and I could see how they were doing for those grade level skills, I went ahead and started picking and choosing for my curriculum what assignments to put in there from our Engage New York, Eureka, I don't even remember which one. It's the same thing. Classes to match my instruction. So these are really good to do at the beginning of your grade level. Then it kind of gives you a picture of what do they already know for our 5th grade skills or our 4th grade skills or whatever grade level. But it also is really neat because then if you're finishing up at the end of the year, I mean, we're talking about gifted math kids. They move a little bit faster than our regular ed students. And so by the end of the year, you're like, okay, well, what are we doing? We need to keep kids working, but keep growing. So you can jump on to the next grade level, Get Ready course. I have a 2nd grade teacher who ran into last year with her higher students who are now my 3rd grade math students. Their mappers was just getting entirely too challenging for them. They were spending more time with her trying to figure things out than they were trying to use the resources in Khan. And she's like, I need to do something different. Like this isn't a good fit for her anymore. So she went ahead and we signed that student up for the Get Ready for 3rd grade courses. So then it wasn't easy for her. She still had a learning place to be. And she was still working. Again, her peers didn't know that she wasn't working on mappers. She just knew that when it was time to go to mappers, she went to this particular assignment instead. So it was really handy for her to help her continue to move forward, continue to be challenged, but also start looking at skills for 3rd grade and be ready for 3rd grade.
You got a question, Lisa?
Yes.
Deborah. Deborah, do you have a question? Maybe that was an accident.
Okay.
Okay, let's just keep going. And Deborah, speak up and unmute if you have a question. Oh, no, sorry. Okay, we're good.
Next slide, please. Just some other things like about Khan Academy, you can assign the same or different questions to the whole class. So when you choose that assignment, it's going to be the same skill, same standard, but do you want all of your students answering the exact same questions in the exact same order, or do you want it to take those same questions and change the order? I always select the different order because my students are allowed to move around the room when they're working on Chromebooks. So I don't want them working with a partner side by side on this. This is independent practice. And again, if they're doing the same thing, are we really working at our own pace, or are we trying to keep up with so-and-so? I like the ability for the opportunity rather, for my students to be able to do their own thing, take their time, do what they need to do. When you go into your reports and things, and this is a whole other like Khan Academy talk, is like reading the reports and going through the teacher dashboard, you can see each question like that was in that skill quiz assignment or exercise, and you can see which was most difficult for students, and you can also see how many attempts each individual student made at answering a question. So that might actually have changed a little bit, but what I want to say is it's really interesting because you can see if they hurry up, answered it, got it wrong, and if they came back and made a second attempt, or if they just moved on and said, I got it wrong and I'm fine with getting it wrong kind of thing. One thing that changed this year, and this is why I'm not sure if this has impacted this, Khan Academy just in the last like 3 weeks added a try again button. So if a student, so in Khan Academy, they'll say, okay, get 4 questions on this skill in a row correct. And so kids will get 3 in a row correct and miss the 4th one. And then they're like, and they got to go back to the very beginning and try the whole exercise or quiz again. Well, they would like have to finish it, even though they know they didn't get their 4 in a row. And it usually gives them opportunities to try again to get another streak of 4 in a row. But students would just quit and go out because they're like, well, I already got 3. I'm not going to get the 4th one now, and that kind of thing. They would just quit, go out, and then come back later or try again. Khan Academy put in a new button and it says try again right on the screen. So they'll do their 3 in a row, miss their 4th one, they'll just hit the try again and it starts them over right there, instead of them having to go out, come back in, and like then feeling defeated that whole time, knowing that, I got that wrong. I'm not going to get this one marked right anyway. Like I'm going to have to keep trying. They can just start over as soon as they know they've made a mistake. So those are some things that are kind of exciting in Khan Academy. On the next slide, you already got it. Thank you. With mappers, to get all your data in there, and I mentioned I would come back around to this, you have to go into NWEA, and you have your reports. You have to print the grade breakdown report. So I have 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. When I go in, and it brings up all of 3rd grade, even students I don't have never heard of. But what's really nice is it prints, like when it puts all the students in the report, it goes from least to greatest by RIT score. So my gifted kids are always going to be on the bottom of the grade level because they're going to have the higher scores. Not always. I got some in the middle sometimes. But what's really nice is if you play with it, you can save it to a Google spreadsheet. You can delete all the kids you don't need and then just take what you need. So there are ways to make it happen to get just the information you need. It doesn't take long once you figure it out. But then you do need to make sure that you know the reason why it has to be this report, okay, is because you need the range for each of the 4 categories. For geometry, measurement, data, numbers, and operations and algebra. You need the range. And then once you have that range, and this is the only report that I found that gives all of the ranges for all 4 pieces, you have to take the lowest number in the range because, and I think, I'll come back to that. You have to take the lowest number in the range because you don't want to start your kids at the top of that range. That means they're ready to move on to the next range, the next level of difficulty with that. You don't want to start your kids out at the top where they're set up for failure with a bunch of stuff they don't know and feeling challenged beyond, and defeated because of the things they don't know. So if you start out that bottom number of the range and put that in when you're putting in your MAPS data into those 4 categories for each student, you'll be in good shape because that's got them in that zone of proximal development. This is where we are in this category. And we're going to either fill in gaps from here or we're going to start here and keep pushing our ceiling. So you're going to choose your class once you're on the mapper site. You're going to put the data in that lowest number from each range of the 4 categories, And then you're going to have to hit show me the recommendations. When you hit show me the recommendations, that's when it saves the new data for the students. So I do this in the fall after we do our MAP assessment, and then I do it like January, February after we do our winter assessment. I do not do it at the end of the year because that's going to be their highest, and we're running out of time to actually do MAPPERS practice at that point. So again, I had said earlier that the links are different to Khan Academy and to MAPPERS. On this slide, you'll see that that's what the Khan Academy MAPPERS link looks like. And when you go to the site, it'll say MAP recommended practice. MAPPERS is just what I've always ever heard it called, even in like the chat groups that I'm in as an ambassador, everybody calls it MAPPERS. On the next slide, we can talk about how to make MAPPERS work for you. Again, this is a lot of repetition, but I use it, and you can use it in a lot of the same ways that you'd use Academy. With my third graders, like I said, I do about 20 minutes of Academy a week, and we do about 15 minutes of MAPPERS a week. So we don't do it all in one day. Like we'll do MAPPERS on Monday, and then we'll do Academy on Tuesday. On Wednesday, we'll do something different for tech time. And then on Thursday, we'll do another 10 minutes. It just kind of depends on the day. We change it up a little bit, but we do 10 to 15 minutes of tech time in third grade, guided, blocked out, intentional time every day. Fourth and fifth grade, it does look different because they get to choose, like once they've been released into the wild after our whole group instruction, they're responsible for by the end of the week having completed their minutes. So they can pick and choose, oh, I'm going to work on MAPPERS today, or I'm going to work on Khan Academy today. No matter how much I recommend to fourth and fifth graders to break up their 30 minutes or their 15 minutes, like do 7 here and 8 here so that you're not doing 45 minutes straight of Sal Khan, they don't do it. They don't break up their time throughout the course of the week. They will do all of it in one day. And I'm like, that makes me miserable. So I'm constantly encouraging. And I would say that's probably the point where like I could in the classroom be like, nope, you have to do 15 minutes today, 15 here, 15 there. But I really want them to start taking ownership of how they're using their time and giving them some flexibility with that. And they do, they manage to pull it off. You know, you have the 1 or 2 with time management skills that are not. So then that's the one that I'm like, okay, today you have to do this. But for the most part, they're able to do it. So it's really exciting to see them, again, learning those time management skills and building that in for themselves. But again, just like you would for Khan Academy, you can use it in centers, you can use it daily, you can use it weekly, you can set the number of minutes. I know the second grade teachers in our building, they do weekly goals for their students. So maybe they have to do like 2 geometry assignments this week, 1 numbers and operation assignment, 1 algebra and operations assignment. Like they break it up, but they do a really good job of differentiating it in that way that it depends on each individual student. So some students might have more numbers and operations goals than geometry goals. But you can choose, you can pick and choose. And when you're in the MAPPERS page, it'll tell you that your student has 0 out of 52 in geometry that they can complete. So sometimes in my class, depending on what we're doing in the week, I might say, okay, this week you have to work on geometry and MAPPERS, or this week you have to work on measurement and data in MAPPERS, to make it, again, at least relatable in some way to connect it to our instruction. But usually I let them pick and choose because, again, I want to give them some freedom with that. Right, next slide, please. So with MAPPERS, and this is true in Khan Academy, not just MAPPERS, but just some things to know. Students will always, always, always ask you, the teacher, for help, whether it's Academy or MAPPERS, most likely in MAPPERS, before they try to use the videos or the hints. They're going to go, well, I don't know how to do this. And this is the part where I work on encouraging this self-regulation in my classroom, because if you don't know the answer, gifted kids don't know what to do when they don't know the answer. So I want them to be able to see, look, I have hints, I have resources, there are videos, there are lessons that I can do to learn how to do this, and try to learn how to do it, and then come back and do the exercise for the points so I can level up. And sometimes they don't even know that there are hints and videos available to them. So teaching them where those resources are is usually a big thing in third grade. But they will always, 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 I don't know how to do this, come to you, the teacher, first. So I like to encourage them. And here's my reasoning to the students too. There are, like, if there are 11 of them and they're working on 11 different skills in 4 of those different categories, I'm teaching that many different mini lessons one-on-one, which can be overwhelming, which goes back to that very first slide. I can't do everything all the time. So it's just a really cool way for kids to learn, like, I have questions, where can I go to get the answers? And then I always, always, always tell them, if you've tried the videos and you've tried the articles or you've tried the additional hints, if you can't figure it out, then come to me. And I still have kids that'll come back, but that's okay. They at least tried first. And that's what I want my kids to always do first. A lot of times too, even in mappers, they'll go straight to the quiz without doing the learning. And that's why they come and ask me for help. So again, it's just trying to teach them that if you don't know something, you have to learn about it first before you can answer the questions. And third grade especially, I feel like I see more of, well, I already know how to do this, and trying to teach our gifted kids that, well, we really don't know everything and we have a lot to learn. So that's, like I said, that's usually my third graders. But it's a learning opportunity, and one that all gifted kids need, is that when we don't know what to do, we need to figure out what to do. Last but not least, students, okay, they have to complete all the videos, all the articles, all the exercises, and complete the quizzes or unit tests to get 100% on the skill. So I actually just talked to a second grade teacher today. It's usually the same second grade teacher because she loves con too. But I talked to her today. She's like, my kid's got 98% and she's done 100% on all the quizzes, all the exercises, and on the unit test. I said, but did she watch all the videos? And she said, no. And I said, well, then she technically has 100% on the skill, but she didn't 100% complete the skill, the lesson, the unit, because she didn't do those video pieces. Now, depending on how you're scoring things and what you're looking at on the progress report side as a teacher, for me, that would have been fine, because I can go back and I can see her quiz and exercise and unit test data. I can see that. I know she's got 100% on it. If she got 100% on it, I'm not going to fuss at her about watching videos so that her 98 takes her up for like the mastery points. Again, that can be a whole other conversation if you want to track mastery points and how to do that. And students can earn badges and level up in different things. That's another conversation. But that's another way you could track student data and progress as a motivator as well. But that is just the littlest, tiniest thing. They'll get to that 98%. And then if it really does upset them, then they can go back and they can watch the videos to 100% complete the unit and lesson. But I personally don't require that. I actually, on my quizzes and such, and Con will even tell you in their teacher trainings, 80% is considered acceptable. I tell my students, if you 80% or more, you don't have to redo it. If you have less than 80%, I want you to try again. Maybe go back, rewatch the videos, try the exercises again, or try the quiz or test again. Any questions about how I use Con or how I use mappers in my classroom?
Lisa, it sounds like this is, I don't know, is this part of their regular grade? Are you their teacher of record, or are you keeping these scores, or explain how you're using them?
Yeah. So I'm using them. I am teacher of record. I don't use them as like a letter grade in my grade book.
Okay.
So my classroom it's evolved, like I said earlier. It's not quite a workshop, but kind of a workshop. Several years ago, Christy Cropper visited our school district and talked about kind of how she runs her classroom. And she's got a work ticket, and it's very student-centered, student-led. And I went and observed her for a couple of hours, and I fell in love with how she did things. So I have actually modified my classroom to based on what I saw and heard from her. So my students every day, we do some whole group instruction. And then once that's done, they're like, the rest of the class time is theirs. They are responsible for completing graded paperwork. They're responsible for completing tech time. And then if they have everything done for the day or done for the week, I always have partner games available for them, which are related skills or reviewing math skills. But then as they're working on their tech time or working on their independent work, or maybe even at that point with the math games, I'm pulling small groups. And I'm using my information from Khan Academy to form my small groups. So I'll be looking at how they've done on quizzes. So if I have a group of kids that scored maybe 60 or less, that's going to be one small group. If I have a group that's between that 60 and 80%, that'll be my next small group. If they're at 100%, I'm going to pull that as a small group, because then I can kind of look at, based on that skill that we had assigned in our Khan Academy, these kids need more practice. They need me to help make sure they understand what to do. Or, okay, they've got this. Now I can go to the next level with them and challenge them in that top 100% group in another way.
Sounds good.
Okay. Good question. So I don't use my Khan information for grade at all. And then the mappers, I guess I didn't say this, but it's what I'm using as like that enrichment, extending learning, and pushing that ceiling, because we need to be able to do that with our gifted kids at some point, somewhere. And that's the piece that I use to do that in my classroom. Okay, just a couple more slides. We're almost done. Looking at this slide, it's just kind of an FYI, like things to make sure that you know or that your students are aware of to make the experience using Khan Academy or Mappers smoother for all. Make sure your students are logged in. And by logged in, that means their name appears in the top right corner of their screen, because I have kids that are like, I did my Khan time, and I'm looking at my teacher dashboard and they have 0 total learning minutes. I'm like, well, you didn't do my Khan because I don't have any recorded data for you. So it makes the best use of their time. And again, that's something I train, and we practice and practice and practice the first several weeks of school. Are you logged in? Point to your name on your screen and how to get logged in properly, because any assignments that I give them, they're not going to access them if they're not logged in. They're not going to get any credit for completing Khan time if they're not logged in. I've had kids coming in and they're like, well, I was doing, like adding and subtracting large digit numbers, and they're 5th graders. I'm like, I didn't assign that. How did you even get there? So they just didn't log in. They just picked a lesson and started working. I was like, oh my. Make sure you know that it takes up to 10 minutes for progress to update. So if a student is working and they stop and you said that they had to have 10 minutes or 3 assignments done or whatever, give Khan Academy up to 10 minutes to completely update in your teacher dashboard and on the student dashboard. Also, if you're not really sure what student view looks like, if you're logged in as a teacher and you're at your dashboard and you click on like your picture or your name, you have a learner profile. And you can go in and kind of see how their screen is set up. That is also something that's changed in the last couple of years, because for the longest time, I had to tell my students, my screen doesn't look like yours. I don't know what it looks like on your side. So that's a huge improvement. Students can personalize their learner profile, their little icon guy, and they can track their own mastery points and earn their badges and all these different things. I don't make time for that in my class. I don't give my students time to do that because that's not what's important to me. But that is definitely something that could be used as a motivator or a reward or something in connection to using Khan Academy. And lastly, there are different ways. Like I just go in and I open up the teacher dashboard. I look at I can set the date range or just for the single day to check total learning minutes, which is what I use. There are a lot of ways you can use this, but I just look at total learning minutes. And students have to be on a video or on an article or an exercise for longer than a minute for it to count for them. But I'm looking at total learning minutes you can do other things. There's so many things out there. You can have students journal. You can have them log. You can have them do an exit ticket. Just different ways you can document and reflect on learning. And there is, on the last slide here, when we get to it, there is a link there for Khan educators. So you don't have to be Khan Academy ambassador, but they have all kinds of quick trainings on how to read the reports, how to set up your classroom, different ways that you could record or use student data and learning. So those are just some things like that you might be interested in, other ways that you could use Khan or mappers in your classroom. So then the next slide is the last slide. And right there is any any educator has access to this. Again, it's all free, but this is the link for Khan for Educators. And it can take you from the very beginning where you're setting up your own Khan Academy account all the way through reading the different types of reports. And as I mentioned, you can go back in and you can look at each type of question and how many attempts students made on it. All of that is available to you, and they teach you all of that and those there. I'm just somebody who loves Khan and has found a lot of ways that I can use it in my classroom that I've found successful, builds a lot of confidence for my students. And as I mentioned earlier, that stamina for this online testing that we do with math, which is difficult. And it's just made a really big impact on how I'm able to group my students in my classroom. And then it gives them an opportunity to push their ceiling with mappers. Any questions?
Are students able to see the LearnStorm from their end, or is it just something that you project so that they see from your account?
Only the teacher can access it. The students cannot see it. So we check it every Friday as a whole class. And we got these TVs this year. So what I've been doing lately is just a student from the class comes up and you just hit the button. I will say I liked last year on the LearnStorm when they did the updates. It just kept going and going and going and filling rings all the way until it was done for the day. This time, after each ring fills, you have to hit the button again, and a ring fills, and then you have to hit the button again. It takes a little bit longer, but they're excited and they cheer it the whole time. Not that the TV or the computer know what's going on, but it makes the kids happy.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Lisa, can you put your contact information into the chat?
Yes.
Because I've not done Khan Academies in like 100 years. So I need to look at it again. And I'm sure then I'm going to have questions.
Yeah.
So, I know your email address, but I don't know that everybody else does. So if you could put that in the chat, that would be great.
So that was actually, I have 2 notes here at the end of my for myself. Just if there are no other questions. All right. So my email address is there in the chat. Please feel free to email me anytime. I'd be happy to help you out. There's still a lot of stuff I don't know about Khan. These are the things I know because these are the things that I've been using and the things that I've been seeking out on purpose. I mentioned earlier, I really, really want Khan Academy to separate mappers work from the course content. But another complaint that I've seen from other Khan ambassadors, so like hopefully it's going to go somewhere, is like and my coworker, I saw Jean just jumped on here. We share students. So when our students are working in Khan Academy for math, or they're working in Khan Academy for language arts, their total learning time goes together in one place. Language arts and math are not separated. So like as a teacher, we have to go in and look at the individual student progress and say, okay, they had 3 minutes here, 3 minutes here, 3 minutes here. That's language art, 9 minutes. Even if the total learning minute says 29 minutes, we have to go in and sort them out. So that's a complaint that's probably why they asked me to be an ambassador, because I keep sending the same complaint because I want my time separated, because I have to go in and I have to figure out a way to separate their Khan time and their mapper time because I want it separate. But then I also have really I spend time teaching my kids how to read their own dashboard, to read their own progress so that they can it's math. We're adding up minutes. They're checking their own, again, self-regulating and monitoring their own time as well. So my email is there. And then as a Khan Academy ambassador, they ask us just to send out a quick follow-up survey. And Diane put that in the link there. It's the Google Docs link. If you could please fill that out for me. We are asked as ambassadors to do 1 or 2 trainings each year, and then to get feedback from the groups that we present to, just for their documentation purposes and whatnot. So if you could do that for me, please, I would really appreciate it. And if you have any questions anytime, I would be happy to help you out. Thank you so much for letting me share this tonight.
Thank you, Lisa. It's obviously obvious you have a passion for this, and I love it when passions come through. So thank you.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. The next thing was going to be a break, but if you're okay, I'm going to just plod along and I'll try to shorten it a bit. Are we okay with that? Just shake heads. I don't think we'll go an hour, which we could, but I don't think we'll go that long. So let's just move along. If you're doing the survey and half listening, that's okay too. Okay. So I have not a math gene in my body. I say that about science too, but math is probably even stronger than science. So when I thought, okay, I had this wonderful presentation. I knew what Lisa was going to do. And it was just, I know people are trying to differentiate in their classroom. They want to differentiate, and it just give me some stuff. Okay. So I started looking for stuff. And that's what I'm going to share tonight. I did this sort of similarly, I can't talk tonight, at the reading one. And so hopefully we'll find some things that you can use and share with your colleagues. And I'm going to give you a little bit of time to research, because I also know if I just show you this, you won't do anything with it tomorrow. So we're going to take some time. I'm going to ask you to sort of report back. And we'll see which ones we like, and we'll see what you found that you liked. So here's some resources. So the first one, anybody ever heard of Open Middle? Yes, I see some yeses and I see some nos, and I see a lot of logo things there. Okay, so there's some yeses. Please don't look at that first. I guess it's sort of like a bullet point there. But I just discovered this last week and shared it with Kristen, who was on the call, and she had to go. But she shared it with different grade levels. What it is just a wonderful resource broken down by all the different standards and by grade levels, and then options of things to do with them. If you want to look further, we are not going to watch this. This is an hour-long video that says why we should reconsider worksheets and what we should be doing instead. His premise is, even if you have those cutesy worksheets, where you get an answer, and then this used to be some of my favorite things to do. I thought, I'd run them off on my Ditto machine, and you'd get the answer, and then it would make a code at the bottom, and it would be a Thanksgiving phrase or something. I thought those were the best things ever. No, just because they're cute doesn't make them good. So he's saying what they should be doing instead. This is an hour-long webinar. Again, we are not going to watch it, but he gives pretty compelling evidence of why you should not do that. So if you need to share with a colleague or share with an administrator, or you want to take a look later, that's there. Then there's the handouts. There are handouts that go along with that webinar. But let's go to the next slide, which will give some examples. So if you sign up for his, let me go back a minute. And I think I have that linked. Yes, let's go back to the site. So let me share this. Hang on, this tab instead. Okay, so if you go to Open Middle, this is what you'll see. You can see that you can even get it in different languages. You can go to the favorite problems. You can select by the core state standards. It's not going to work, but you can investigate. This is one of the things I'd like you to try in a little bit. But you can see down here at the very bottom, browse by depth of knowledge level. That's awesome. There's all sorts of stuff. It's just like opening, it's just a big box. Up here, you can see all the grade levels. So we go down to kindergarten. There you can see all the standards. and all the way across. Okay. So if we went to, let's go to 4th grade. So if we go to 4th grade and we go to measurement and data, my least favorite, you've got this kind of stuff these kind of problems that you can do. They're all there for you. Can it be enrichment? Sure. Go to the grade level ahead. Can it be on grade level? Sure. Go to the grade level you're in. Do you need reinforcement? Go to the grade level before. But it's got awesome, awesome, awesome possibilities. Okay. So I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to give you time to look later. So don't stay on that one. Okay. Let's go back to this one. So that's what open middle is. So when I signed up, then the next day I got this, it's like a problem of the day. So here's the problem: using the digits 1 through 9 exactly 1 time each. Place a digit in each box to make 3 decimals whose sum is also, is as close to 1 as possible. Play with that, could be bell work. You could do it however you want. They suggested if you didn't want to use decimals, you could make them thousands, which would be just maybe conceptually a little easier. But he promised to send the answer today, and I haven't gotten it yet. So if you have nothing to do the rest of the evening, you could figure this one out. But that's the kind of things you could be doing. It's not all like that, but that is one of them. All right, the second thing I found, and by the way, I have talked to Chris Farrell. Many of you know Chris Farrell. She's our math consultant here, along with LaVon McLeod. And they are, Chris, I'm sorry, let me go back. Yeah, Chris is the one who recommended this book by Peter, and he has a Norwegian last name that I don't want to butcher. But this one is awesome. It looks like it's going to be, one of those books you do not want to sit down and read, and it's not that. And I'm holding it up, which it's the same picture as that, but it's actually just 14 teaching practices for enhancing learning. So, Brenna says, I'm leading a book study in my district on this book now. Yay, then you can do one for us. Sounds good. Okay, and so there are 14 teaching practices. There's an addition to the book. When we were doing so much online, he did another one for different settings, modifying your thinking classroom for different settings. So that's available too. But I'm not an expert in any of these. I'm just, again, looking for things that might help you. And if you go to this YouTube, again, it's another hour thing that it will tell you how they use them. This one is awesome in that if people have done any of these, they start posting how they've done them. But these are 11 of the 14 things. So begin with a problem. And I love the little sort of graphic representations of what you're supposed to do. But these are the ways that you can start building thinking classrooms. And then in the book, they give their research on how all of these are and how they're good and why they're good. Brenna, do you want to add anything to any of these? Because I'm really, as I said, not an expert. You want to unmute and say anything or not? I guess not.
Yeah, sorry.
That's okay. Sorry, put you on the spot.
No, that's okay. So right now, I'm actually leading the book study with my entire grade level. So we are looking at, and I did the book study in a Facebook group over the summer, and like Peter actually came and met with us a couple of times.
Wow.
So we're using the skills in all content areas, not just math. So it's really like you can use it for anything.
What would you say? I know the one I was impressed with was the vertical non-permanent surfaces, like when you're writing, that you do them vertical, like a whiteboard, chalkboard, or window. And I thought that was information.
Huge difference. The kids love it. So it's suggested, like, if you're going to do it in pieces, which we're doing it in pieces, you do like the first 3 random grouping, the vertical non-permanent surfaces, and the thinking tasks within the first 5 minutes of class. Like, you do those 3 things together. So the kids love being up and working. I just tape things around the room. I don't have enough whiteboards, unfortunately, because your group sizes are supposed to be like 2 or 3 kids. It says not to do more than like 3. So unfortunately, some class sizes just don't allow for that. But the thinking and the conversations that they have, it's amazing. The book talks about how when you're up and you're moving, it gets your brain going and you process better. And I have seen the kids, they do better. They're more engaged. And all the other teachers in the building, because when we do the book study, I give them a task with every chapter that they have to do with their classes. And so then they come and they report back like how the task went according to like what was in that chapter. And they're seeing a lot of the same things too with the kids. And the kids are starting to think, they're starting to go to each other. I can literally just walk around the classroom for an hour and nobody's asked me any questions.
I'm looking at these, and again, I am not an expert because I've just picked up the book and you can see it's not very well used yet. But how many of these go along with our like teaching for deeper learning strategies that when we were doing that book? I love the defront the room. That goes way back to when I did teaching expectations and student achievement. You know, you don't always stand in the front. There are so many good things. It's not just math. You're right. Any comments on that? Again, I'm going to give you some time to investigate these. And if you were here, I'd let you look at the book, but you'll have to go with the YouTube thing.
I heard Peter's
Yeah, I
also
just wanna
coming out with a
throw-
new book.
I'm sorry, what, Brenna?
I heard Peter's coming out with a new book that's not just math. It's for all content areas within the next year or 2.
Okay, good. All right, Melissa?
I was just going to echo what Brenna already said. We did a book study with it. Our math department did over the summer. Our middle school math department did with that book. And they were excited to read the book, which was huge for us. And the takeaways, it was wonderful to see them in action at the beginning of the school year. But yes, I totally agree. You can implement a lot of the things in no matter what content you're in. And it's good to see kids up and actively learning.
So you're seeing them put these in practice then, Melissa?
Of course, you never see it as much as you want to, but you see bits and
Right.
pieces of it. Yes.
Okay, but that's all right. Baby steps, right? Okay. So that's the second one I found. Let's go on. And we're going to, as I said, we'll come back and investigate here. It's not. We'll get there in a second. There we go. This is just another way, another visual of the 14. So then this just came across my desk in the last week. Edu Protocol Field Guide came out first with a volume 1 and a volume 2, and it was for all subjects. Then they came out, and I don't know the order of these next two. There was a social studies version that came out, and then this math guide came out. And when you see Hebron and I don't know how to say his name, John, maybe Corripos, whatever, they're the originators. And then they had experts in social studies write the social studies book. And then these two are experts that did the math book. What I like again, and I'm not an expert, it just came in the last week, is that it's student-centered lesson frames for math mastery. So it's, again, something you could put in somebody's hand and they could actually use it tomorrow. And talking, it's so nice we have our colleagues here in the office. Matt Mays was saying that these people are going to present at a technology conference that he's going to in the next couple weeks. So it's just so funny how these things pop up. But this is fairly new. I think the first one just came out in 2021. So I just picked one of the Edu protocols that they had come up with, and they did a tic-tac-toe one that I really liked. And again, all these are links. So there's a template with directions on how to use this, and then other Edu protocol templates. And then at the bottom is just tons of stuff to use with tic-tac-toes. In other words, you've got, we like tic-tac-toe. It's an easy game. But to use it in math and how you could use it, and they give you samples, it just goes on. And that's just one of the 15. But what they suggested with this one, if you think about it, if you know depth of knowledge, DOK 1, so you put those examples in the corners, then you use a DOK 2 example in the middle, and in the very center, you put a DOK 2 or 3. So 2 students would play this, and they'd have to answer them, but the first one to get the correct answer would get that, like you would put an X or an O. So the X, and then they'd have to do them together. But whoever won got the X or the O, and then that's how they could potentially win. So a simple concept, but I thought pretty powerful and so easy to adapt to different grade levels. I really liked it. The other thing in the book, it had this chart, and I know it's not going to be real easy to read. I apologize. I copied it. But these were DOK examples of depth of knowledge in mathematics. And I know some of us are not as versed in depth of knowledge as others, but if you didn't, depth of knowledge 1 is just recalling information. So a simple, 6 plus 7 equals what? Then you have DOK 2, these get a little bit harder, and then that strategic thinking, which is in DOK 3. So I thought, wow, that's something. I could make tic-tac-toe boards, it's not going to be every day in your classroom. It's not going to be every period, every day, but it's something that's novel, but you're also getting, you're stretching, you're enriching, and it's rigorous. So that book, I have these to borrow if anybody would like to look at them and maybe do your own book study, or there's a potential other book study in these. So then I'm always thinking, and again, I'm not the math teacher, so these are not things that I don't know how useful they are, but I always go to Ian Bird. Ian Bird should walk on water, in my opinion. So if you go to birdseed.com, there are tons, but this page is just, let's get to this one. Look at all these math ideas that you could get to. So strategy game, math game, so which is longer, array, align, or line. I mean, all of these. Okay, so there's tons and tons and tons there. I'm sorry, I'm probably scrolling too fast. So when people say I don't know where to look, I always start with Birdseed because it can go down the rabbit hole when you get there. So then I was on a, oops, I'm sorry. I lost my presentation. Just a minute. Hang on a second. Now, see, a year ago, I wouldn't have been able to do that. I would have said, we'll just end now because I can't get back, but we're doing good. I was on a presentation last week where they mentioned this Muggins math. Has anybody heard of it? No? Yes? Okay. This is mostly, maybe I don't have the link there. If you just go to mugginsmath.com, you'll get to it. I thought I had a link. Apparently I don't. It's a lot of manipulatives, but when I was on this call, they were all saying they had seen it at the Gifted conference, and they all were purchasing it for their family, their grandkids, their rooms, but a lot of manipulatives. I wish I could, you can click on it. That's all you have to do, and you'll see them. Again, not being a math teacher, I'm not sure how reliable it was, but a lot of people were saying how good it was. Okay. And then this math by the book. And again, let me see if I can click on this one. Oh, I know why. Wait a minute. I don't know why. I can't get to them right now, but that is a link as well. This just came across my desk this afternoon. And this is connecting literature and math. And it has grades K to 5. And they have activities. There's like 20 books at each grade level. And you get this list of books, and it tells you the actual standard that book, a chapter in that book might be talking about. And I was talking to Levon, and we're both really excited about it. And we think it reminds me a lot of junior grade books in some ways, in that it's good literature, but it's got math concepts within the literature. So I really, really, really like it. We're going to look at potentially purchasing some. Can we take 5 minutes that everybody looks at one thing and then you come back and share something that you found that you think that we could use. We do that? So it's 5:39. At 5:45, don't look at this, look at your screen, look at those links. If you need the slides, I'll pop it back into the chat and you can open up the slides, and then you can do some looking at that. Okay, 5 minutes, go. I found out what I was doing wrong. If you didn't see the math by the book, you can now see that there's in a minute. I just want to show this because I now know what I'm doing. So here's the long list you can see of all the books that go with you can see there's the kindergarten one, the featured text. It tells which standard it's going with, and so on. So it's expensive. Well, I shouldn't say it's expensive. It's $59 for the book with all the activities that go with the 20 books. And then you get one of the 20 books. So it's $59 per grade level. I'm assuming you could get the actual book from a library. So if you just got the activity book, maybe that's not so bad. But Levon and I were just so excited to find this because we thought this was a really cool thing. So that's what I'm sharing. Oh, thank you, Melissa. Okay, that's great. And if you think you might like it, I did the thing again. If you think you might like it, let me know, because Levon and I are sort of testing the waters to see if we want to purchase more of those. So if you think you might like it, because maybe we could have them here and then you could borrow them. So if you think that's a possibility, let me know. You can just send me an email or something. That would be great. All right, let me get back to this. Okay. Anybody have anything that they saw that they might like to use or they could see would be beneficial? About 3 or 4. I'm not going to ask everybody to share. Did anybody find anything? Just unmute and speak up. Nobody found anything? Melissa?
I do want to know more about Math by the Book. I was able to skim it, but 5 minutes goes pretty fast. So I'm looking forward to checking that out. That's a really good find. Thank you.
Did you think it would fit a certain grade level, Melissa?
It looked like they have K through 4.
5.
Or is it 5?
4?
No, I think you're right. I think it was 5, K through 5. And it looks like it's pretty in depth, as far as it's going to take some time to work through. So like you said earlier, it reminded you of junior grade books. It puts me in that mind as well. But 5 minutes, I have a very first blush response, but I want to know more.
Okay. Levon also said that the person who, I don't know if she's the writer of the books or the collaborator or something, is from down by Cincinnati. And she spoke at their Ohio Council of Teachers of Mathematics. And she was very encouraged. She really liked her and she really presented well. So again, maybe it's another presentation like we have that comes to high impact or something. I think you just need the author to, again, like Lisa showed us her passion for Khan Academy. We need to see the passion for that. Did anybody else find something they thought they could use or would like to look at more? Lisa's lights went out.
Apparently I've been here too long. I was just going to share on Birdseed. I always forget to go there just to look for something quick, like my partner games. But Fizz Buzz, a divisibility game. Has anybody ever used that one? I think it looks fun. The students sit in a group and then they start counting up, except if the number is divisible by 3, they have to say fizz instead of the number. If it's divisible by 5, they say buzz. If it's divisible by both, they say fizz buzz. So 15, when they got to 15, instead of saying 15, they'd say fizz buzz, which I feel like would be challenging because you have to think about what's my number? Is it divisible by 3? Is it divisible by 5? But I feel like you could change the numbers. And then, of course, you could add more sounds by adding another factor and just practicing the divisibility rules and thinking about factors. I think that's a fun one.
I think I would like to do that. I think that could be the next New Year's Eve party that we do. Thanks, Lisa. Anybody else find something? I won't make you talk, I promise. Let me, just because I was not knowing what I was doing, this Muggins math, just to, if you didn't look at that. So they said it was great. Looks like it's games and manipulatives. That's a hard word to say on a Thursday afternoon. You can just see, it looks like it could be interesting. Got a lot of kudos. I don't know. It looks like it could be neat. Just one of those alternatives. It says it's good for ages 4 to the nuclear physicist. So,
Diane, I looked at that a little bit, and at first I was like, "Whoa!" Some of the pricing, but
oh, is it high?
well, it goes up depending on how many game boards you buy because each of the
Okay.
game boards has a different focus. So that was pretty neat. And I also like the fact they have a YouTube video. So there was somebody explaining how to play the games. Sometimes when you play the game, you're reading the directions, you're going back and forth. I just want someone to tell me. I'm going to watch them and listen. So I did appreciate that. And it's kind of sneaky. There's different ways in her demo. She showed that you could create, by changing the signs around to get different numbers. And you can bluff, put a number down. And then if somebody challenges your bluff, you have to be able to explain how you actually arrived at that answer. And if you can't explain it, you lose your marble comes off the board and theirs goes on. There's all sorts of strategy and a little bit of cutthroat activity going on. But it seemed pretty cool.
Okay, well, that's good to know. And I'm glad you checked into the pricing. I mean, you could have, if you bought a building, you could buy like several different ones and then check them out or something. The only reason we have money at the ESC is because of the grant that is supporting that ACE network that's going on. There is money in that grant network. So if you see something that looks like, whoa, that's really cool. Just like Levon and I thought that about the books. But if there's something else here like this that you think would be good, and then we're not going to be like the SAM Center where we have, classroom sets of things, but maybe there are some of these things that we could purchase and have on hand that you could use occasionally. So let us know if there's something you think you would like. Anybody else? One last sharing, or if not, that's okay. All right. I think we're going to go back to this. And this is what we just did. And again, thank you. Special thank you to Lisa. And Lisa, if Jean, if she's coming tomorrow, I will send a special thank you with Jean to you. So thank you again.
Thanks.
If you try any of the things that Lisa mentioned or you're new to Khan Academy, we have math coming up on March 16th again, because we do reading in January. Just write them down or send them to me. I'd like to do a review of any of these things we just went over, the Muggins math or the open middle. If you do any of those, it'd be nice to have a review that something you learned from here really worked and it helped you. Reading, you're welcome to come to that. If you're the math person, you don't have to, but you're welcome to come. But I would like to share those out in March. So we'll take some time and do that. Also, so happy Thanksgiving. That's next week. Many of you know of the PBL project website that Ben Bosch does. If you have not, you might want to check it out. It's awesome. You can get some free stuff from there, or you can purchase a classroom or a building-wide site license and get even more. Yes, thank you, Melissa. I'll add that. And so there are Thanksgiving activities on his site that he shared for free if you go to that link. And then Ian Bird, again, my favorite person, shared out some Thanksgiving activities. One of them was an inanimate object thanking you for something and writing in from an inanimate object's point of view. That's just one of the links there. That comes from his birdseed.com, the Birdseed TV. Right now, if you don't have a subscription to that, but there's my username and password. So you can go in, and if you'd like to use it, you can get into Birdseed TV. You can have it forever. I don't know, and I think he'll just think I use it a lot if you do that. So go right ahead. And Melissa, Todd Stanley, it's at the Gifted Guru.
gifted
Yes.
guy.
Gifted
But
guy.
actually, I was just on that site today, supporting a teacher, and he has 4 corners activities. And there's a whole math section there. I think there were like 22 different, things that you could choose to put in one of the 4 corners, just associated with math. So it
Perfect.
was really helpful.
Green is bringing him in sometime this year as well. So, met him, worked with him this past year. So I wish you all a happy Thanksgiving. Hopefully you picked up a couple new math ideas that you can use. Thank you, Lori. And have a wonderful Thanksgiving and a Christmas, and let's see, New Year's, Valentine's Day, and almost St. Patrick's Day before I see you again. So thank you all, and thank you again, Lisa.
Thanks.
Take care. Bye-bye.